Welcome, Dr. Blythe.
Hi.
Amazing to have you back.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you.
And this time we're talking about your high vibe life. So just want to introduce everybody to Dr. Blythe. Dr. Blythe is a friend from California, and she is a metaphysician and a holistic healing coach who specializes in helping her audience and clients realize a self-healing design. She's passionate about helping every person who wants to hear it understand the power within themselves to heal from anything. Amazing to have you once again.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
I know that, what your passion, as we just described, is around healing from diseases and, really being proactive with your health.
And emotionally. Just creating a really happy, healthy life for yourself is healing,
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So emotionally, mentally, and physically.
Yeah. Spiritually, absolutely, all of it.
And spiritually, all of it. Yeah. So I want to go right into actually the food part first, because I know that you have many amazing products around food, and I know that it's an important and critical piece.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about how food affects us in terms of our vibration or energy?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. It's such a wonderful question because food is energy, food is vibration. And when you take a look at something freshly picked in nature, the energy signature of that food is vastly different than the energy signature of something that is prepared and in a box in the frozen section, or it has been, meat that has been killed 2 weeks ago and died and sitting in styrofoam and plastic in a freezer or in a refrigerator section. It's like fresh food. It has such a different energetic signature, and also living food. So like fresh vegetables and fruits. It's like what we already know, like everybody knows to eat fresh vegetables and fruits and sprouts. Sprouts have so much nutrition. It is said that like a broccoli sprout, like if you sprout broccoli seeds in a little sprouting jar, that those broccoli seeds have 500 times the nutrition as the mature broccoli.
Wow.
So it's like just knowing where to go for the high vibe foods, like what food it has a really high vibration. And, you can feel it, right? Like when you hold a fresh, beautiful apple in your hand, that feels a lot different than like a sandwich of like loaf, bread that's like already pre-sliced and like meat and cheese, right? You can feel a difference in like the energy of that food.
I've actually never like really thought about that, like actually holding an apple versus a sandwich with salami in it.
Yeah. And
like the feeling of it. So that's definitely something to be mindful of. And I've never heard of the term energetic signature.
Yeah, sure. Everything has an energetic signature. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And you know what? Fresh fruits and vegetables and seeds and nuts have geometry too. When you cut, like, for instance, when you cut an apple in half horizontally, there's a star inside. Depending on how you cut cabbage and how you cut celery and how you cut carrots, there's a geometry that's happening that's brilliant and beautiful. And so you're taking on that intelligence because all of that, the color, the aroma, the taste, the geometry, all of that is intelligence. And you're taking it on. So when you're buying prepared foods that have been like prepared at a factory, have that been processed, and you're changing all of that intelligence. And so it's really like the fresh, like if you want to eat a high vibe diet, it's going to be going to the farmer's market because it's less distribution, less channels. It's like fresher from the tree or the plant. So ideally, not always. We don't have to become like crazy, but it's like if you really want to incorporate some changes that will make your diet so much more high vibe, go to the farmer's market as much as possible and cook. We have to cook. We have to like learn easy and not so much cook too. Eat living foods. Eat fresh living foods. Find ways to eat vegetables that you never have before. Something really interesting is like if you just cut it different, like if you get a food processor and for instance shave Brussels sprouts and toss it with like a cold pressed sesame oil and lemon juice and sea salt, you have this amazing fresh salad. And you wouldn't think to eat Brussels sprouts raw, but as long as they're shaved really thin, you can totally eat it. And the lemon juice and the sea salt and the oil kind of break it down. So, you know, it's like sometimes it's just a matter of like cutting it different, where you can ingest more living foods, because living foods compared to cooked foods have enzymes, and enzymes are like the catalyst, the spark that sparks regeneration and everything in our bodies. So it's like enzymes are so important. And when we cook the food, we cook out enzymes. I'm not saying never eat cooked food. I'm just saying like it's so important to make sure that we're getting ample living foods, ample raw foods. And along with living foods for a really high vibe diet is fermented foods, because fermented foods are actually living, and not so much fermented dairy. Like I'm not that into fermented dairies, but fermented vegetables.
Cool. Again, you know, that answer that you had was something that I didn't expect. Geometry.
Yeah.
In your fruits and vegetables.
Oh yeah.
The way you cut it makes a difference.
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
Totally.
Okay, so you're opening up another door for me. It's like,
oh,
okay.
Good. Good, yay.
Wow. And I'm still kind of like absorbing that piece. Like, what does that mean? You know, like, you know, when you said geometry, I think of a star fruit, because you said star. It's like star fruit, right? And it is, it's miracles of life. We have amazing, you know, fruits and vegetables.
They're amazing. I mean, it's astounding what the compounds are in fruits and vegetables, herbs, seeds, and nuts. I mean, it's amazing what's there and how they serve us. And the fact that most of us aren't really like aware of how they serve us, and we might discard it, or we might like cook all the nutrients out of it, you know? And it's really there to serve us.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Love this, loving this conversation. And you know what? I wasn't going to go there, and I'm really interested and fascinated in how you even got into studying and becoming an expert in this area, because it's super fascinating. And some of the listeners may be like, you know, at a crossroad of what they want to do next in their life, because this is all about, you know, finding your purpose and finding your gifts and really living your truth, right? So for you, I'm going to bring you back to your journey. Like, how did you even get into this?
Yeah. I'll tell you something. A good friend of mine years ago, what year are we at? I mean, at least 12 years ago, brought me to a raw food retreat in Eden, Arizona. And being there, so it was all the people that were there ate living foods. So it's like when you eat a living food, you feel more alive. You're more connected to life. And what's life? Life is teeming with energy and vibration and expansion, right? And as soon as I went, I mean, I could tell everyone there was different. I mean, everyone's eyes glowed.
I just want to clarify, because I'm not 100% clear. When you say living food, like an orange that I buy at the grocery store, is that a living food?
Sure. Yeah, it's a raw food. Okay. There's two parts to it. So raw foods will be considered living foods. So just like the more raw foods you get in your diet, meaning foods that aren't cooked, aren't pasteurized, aren't, you know, processed in any way. So it's like fresh fruits, vegetables, herbs, seeds, and nuts, as long as the seeds.
So it doesn't have to be like from a tree, like direct.
No, I mean, the closer to the tree, the better. But no, I mean, you can like shop at a store and like eat raw foods.
Okay.
Foods.
So you went to this thing in Arizona, did you say?
Yes. Let me also just finish with this. Living foods also, though, means living foods in the sense that it's a fermented food. Like there's a teeming probiotic in it, a teeming fermentation process. So that's also considered living foods. Just to clarify that both of those are living foods.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So I went to this raw food retreat, living food retreat, and I could tell everyone was like jacked into the magic. I mean, it was just like no denying it. You're just like, what does everyone here know? What are they doing? And it was like after 3 days there, I was jacked into the magic too. And talking to everyone in the common thread, you know, speaking to people that are like transitioning into a new level of themselves, the common thread with everyone was like life fell into place when they started eating more. So they started putting into their body temple more foods that were just aligned with life, that were just life themselves, that weren't cut, processed, packaged. Like they weren't in any way separate from their full, whole, like natural self, right? So we just start taking in more life itself, you know what I mean? Like foods that are just fresh picked goodness, right? And life becomes more of that. It becomes more of just like, it just happens naturally, organically, like a seed in the ground, just like grows into a brilliant tree with a bunch of fruit. And that was what was happening with everyone. It was like their life was just falling into place in every area. The more living foods they ate, right? And of course, the better you feel and the better you look and your eyes are glowing and you don't have aches and pains and arthritis and high blood pressure, because you're not putting all these things that are acidic in your body and, that clog you in your body. It's like your digestion's running smoothly. If your digestion's running smoothly, everything is running smoothly. So that's what started me on it. I was like, oh, these people know something. And then, I saw in my own life, I saw what it did for me and what it continues to do for me and what sort of happens when, like, okay, I'm 35 weeks pregnant right now. And as Bonnie knows, my first 6 months, I was very, 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 very sick, morning sickness all day long. So I wasn't eating my kale smoothies. It's like I just wasn't eating fermented vegetables. I would like see it and be like, bleh! It's like I didn't want any food. I was so nauseous of everything. And so just to eat was like, just like eat a bagel, something that's like nothing, but just like fills the space. And, of course your body shifts so much when you're pregnant anyway, but I feel a huge difference, it's like, I don't feel that same like magical alignment that happens when you're just like eating foods like as close to nature as possible.
Got it. So you just basically went to this event and then you fell in love with it and then you went into the research of it.
And then it's studying, right? It's studying and interviewing, and naturally I was very good at making. I was very creative in the kitchen, making living foods, and so then that blossomed into a 1-hour live show that we did for Ustream, and then Hulu licensed it. So I had a show on Hulu for a while. Quick and easy living foods, because raw foods too it's quite a cuisine and it can be very, very complicated. And my whole thing was like, no, we got to make it simple. Like you need quick and easy, like blender soups, blender ice creams, blender puddings, interesting top salads that you do in the food processor that take 5 minutes. Blender dressing out of, germinated nuts that are like so high vibration and so highly nutrient dense. Yes. And your own, germinated nut dressings that's just like nuts and herbs with germinated nuts and cold pressed oil is so good for you and so much better for you than any bottled dressing. I never eat bottled dressings, but
what I'm hearing so easy. Like food impacts your, of course, your body and then your mind, right? The clarity of your mind.
Yes. And the cleanliness of everything, like the cleanliness of your internal environment reflects the cleanliness of everything around you. Because you're putting so much more high vibe food into your body, you become more high vibe. And when you become more high vibe, you get more done. Your environment is brighter. It just changes everything.
I love to hear a little more about what we drink. So water. Can you talk on water? I literally went to an event a couple of months ago, and this guy was talking about water, and then he did this crazy experiment about from Coca-Cola to the Perrier to like filtered water to like tap water and how important water is. And then I've watched this movie, and I'm guessing that you know of this research, the Emoto.
Dr. Emoto, yeah, Dr. Masaru Emoto, yeah.
He did this whole thing around putting vibration, like words, on water. Yeah. So can you speak to that, like in terms of how important vibration and water is?
Absolutely. I actually wrote my doctoral dissertation on water. So I was like studied water.
I didn't
And
know.
I
That's
love
a
Dr.
great topic to ask you.
Totally. There's actually more species of water than there is animals in terms of like what's really in water. It's like not just H2O. But I love Dr. Masaru Emoto's work. It's absolutely life-changing to know that water holds a frequency, water holds a vibration, and how significant that is for us, considering we are 75 to 95% water, depending on how hydrated we are, right?
So just in case people have never heard of it before,
I'll
can you
recap.
tell us a little bit more about the research?
Absolutely, I'll recap. So a Japanese scientist by the name of Dr. Masaru Emoto did a study called Messages in Water, and he would put a blessing or a curse basically on bottles of water. So he would say, I love you and I hate you on a bottle of water. And then he would cryogenically freeze the water and photograph the water crystals to see what the water crystals looked like. And he printed these photographs in a book called Messages in Water. So anybody can go look that up, or you can even Google it and you can see these images. And so the images of the water crystals that said, I love you, and many positive things. I mean, he had many positive vibrations spoken into the water, and also like classical music spoken into the water. And he saw these beautiful water crystals that were just geometrically fantastic, right? Snowflakes, right? Mm-hmm. And then the water that had, curses, so to speak, I hate you, you're disgusting, XYZ, were brown. They were actually a discolored, or like a green yellow, and they were just warped and they weren't geometric.
Yeah, I remember like seeing the pictures, and it's eye-opening.
Very eye-opening. Also, he did this with like certain kinds of music that was really like, the kind of music you're just like, what? And that music also did that to the water compared to Vivaldi and Mozart and Beethoven or whatever over here, that we know helps to build neural networks in the brain. So it's very interesting. And, this is like, what are we telling ourselves? What's our internal monologue? Not even about ourselves, but just about life, irritations. It's like whatever's like going on in there. How is that serving the water of our body? How is it imprinting the water of our body? Mm-hmm. What we know is that around every diseased cell is unstructured water. Unstructured water would be water with no structure, like what I explained the cursed water was, right? So water that has structure, geometric structure, is the water that had all the positivity spoken into it or imbued in it, right? Vibration, also, that's such an example of vibration is something. If we think something, that thought is a vibration. It also has a vibrational signature, an energetic signature. Our thoughts have energetic signatures. Our words have energetic signatures. Certainly our behaviors have energetic signatures. Yeah.
That's amazing. So like, what do we have to, kind of look out for when we're physically drinking water? Like, is it that we should, be energetically like talking to our water?
Bless your water, why not? Yeah, take a blessing before you drink your water. Absolutely. Structured water. So one way to structure water, so you want clean filtered water. You want to drink from a water filter that's taken out the fluoride and the chlorine and I believe it's 2,100 chemicals are used to clean water. Because remember, our municipality water, and whatever water is coming into our house then goes through our filter, but it's coming from municipality. And when municipality water is the water that everyone goes to the bathroom in and showers in, and then it just goes back to the municipality and gets cleaned and then comes back through. So it's like those chemicals are probably very important to the water, but we don't want to drink them. So as long as we have a good filter that takes out fluoride for sure, chlorine for sure, and as many other chemicals. And there's devices that you can get where you can read it. It'll show you stick it in the water glass and it'll show you what is in the water. Also, it's good to have, like, we have a RO system that's an alkaline RO system. So we have a reverse osmosis, which takes out the minerals. So it's not that great, but you can always add in trace minerals. And it's alkaline. So it's like lightly alkaline water. So that can be helpful. But one of the tricks that I learned for structuring water, no matter what water you have, is water in nature moves in spirals. So if you watch water in a creek hop against the rocks and move and groove, you see these little spiral vortexes that happen in nature. And that's how water self-heals itself. The spiral cleans itself out. So what's happening is the water molecule is spinning in towards itself, and it spins all of the impurities out of itself. And that's how water is like self-cleaning. So the idea then is that before you drink water, when you have water in a pitcher, that you take a wooden spoon and you just create a vortex, like spiral it. And then that actually helps structure the water. And then that water then would be more absorbable into the body, that your cells would actually absorb water.
Really?
Yeah, because you could be drinking water and feeling dehydrated, like your body's not absorbing it. Because if it's not in a balanced state or a structured state, the cell may not be able to absorb it. Structured water, the cell loves that. It's like, yes, that's what I've been looking for. But that's the cell's own protection, because it doesn't want to absorb tainted water. It wants tainted water. Like if you do drink a bacteria or whatever, if there's poison in the water, your body's mechanism is to then flush it through and not have that be absorbed into your cells. So yeah, so literally
using a spoon or I use chopstick a lot to like stir.
Yeah, exactly.
Water, it actually structures the water to be better.
Yeah.
And
so it's more absorbable into the body.
As you're giving us these tips, I get personally, I'm like, oh my God, there's like so many things I need to think about, like
just make it fun. Be like, I love you, water. You're a magical. Me and my daughter sing a song about water is the magical elixir of life. And because my daughter, that's all she drinks is water. She loves water. Like she doesn't have apple juice, none of that. She's just magical elixir of life. So just sing a little song while you stir it and just make it fun. And then you don't have to think about
it. I love it. Okay. So we got to teach all the adults that.
Yes.
Magical elixir of life.
It doesn't take too long. You don't have to do it for 2 minutes. It's like just done.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I totally did not know that you studied water. So you are the woman to talk to about water. So for like the, regular person who's been drinking tap water, all their lives and now hearing this, like what's kind of like the first step? Is it the mixing? I want to chunk it down to make it an easy process for people to transition as they're learning something new that could make a difference for their vibration.
Yeah, well, depending on where you live, tap water in the northern woods of Wisconsin is well water from the earth. That's amazing. My grandma lives up there. When I take tap water, I'm like, it's like drinking, from a glacier. I live in Los Angeles. I would never drink tap water, ever. So I guess it depends on where you live. I think normally I would not recommend drinking tap water. Filters are very inexpensive. I mean, you can spend $5,000 on a whole house filter, or you can go get an RO system or reverse osmosis system, spend $150 or $200 for a water filter that just so you have filtered water in your house. So you have limitless filtered water in your house, because bottled water might just be tap water anyway, they say, and it's certainly not very environmental. And water is something you should have limitless water in your house. Like it shouldn't be like you're out of water, So I definitely suggest everyone just get themselves an RO system so that they have clean water, and then structure it yourself with your spoon.
Yeah, I'm loving this topic because I know that it's 75% of our body, right? Water.
Yeah.
Like that, right? So let's go to those thoughts that you sort of mentioned.
Yeah.
The thoughts that we think influences our vibration.
Yes.
We're 75% water.
Yes.
So how do you attack that? Like if it is like negative curse type conversation that we're having with ourselves, and that happens, we both know that.
Yeah,
right? It's
sure, of course.
It's a human thing. Whether it's like complaints or getting triggered by somebody or feeling shameful, guilty, like all the negative vibration. So how do we start like shifting that and really like elevating the vibe?
Right. Elevating is a great word to use. A couple things. I teach energy tracking is like one of the things that I teach. And that is simply like becoming really aware of your energy in every moment and start to track your energy. And I teach people to set their phone timer like 3 or 4 times a day to go off, to remember like, what am I feeling in this moment? Because we go on automatic. What happens is the neural networks in our brain are addicted to the chemicals that keep going, right? So often we're just on automatic thinking things and we're not even so much aware that we're thinking things.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you stop and you're like, what am I, where am I right in this moment? You start to catch yourself. And then when you become aware of it, it's so much easier. It's like, once you're aware of it, you're halfway there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then are you familiar with Abraham Hicks?
Yes, I
Yes, awesome. So they have a technique that they call pivoting, and I do this. It's like, so when you become aware of the energy you're in, I'm like irritated, I'm annoyed, this coworker is, an ass, or my kids are driving me crazy, or like whatever. You become aware of it, and then you just pivot. You just go, oh my God, I love this tree outside my window.
Totally a different topic, totally.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not like, I could see how it could be misconstrued as like, oh, brush it under the rug. And it's not brushing it under the rug. It's literally changing your vibration. You're changing your energetic signature. You're like, I will not allow myself to be in this space because I know it doesn't serve me. And I'm just attracting more of the same when I'm in this space. And I'm not growing if I'm in this space. But if I pivot and I think of something I'm grateful for, or I just go, whatever, I can just be like, I love this, I love whatever. I love the painting on my wall. I love what I'm wearing. Whatever you can just grab onto in that moment of pivoting, you're shifting your vibration, and you're shifting your what no longer fires together, no longer wires together in the brain, right? So you're literally rewiring new neural networks in the brain that will get you out of that habit of just like the irritation. Because so much of these little conversations that you have with yourself, they're not even you. Like, you picked it up from your parents, or you picked it up from your environment, or it's just energies that we identified with at one point, and because we kept thinking it or we kept identifying, now it's with us. And it's just like letting that go.
So I have kind of like 2 thoughts here. I'm gonna do the kid one first. So like, I have two boys. Yeah. And they get into the negative conversations already, like, it's not fair, or he has that, why don't I have that, he hit me, like that. So often as little kids, we try to change the topic.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what was the best thing at school today, right? We like try to ask a different question. So when you talked about the pivoting, tool, it sounds like it's kind of like that. Is it?
Yeah, it is kind of like that. Although I think with kids, sometimes it's like you have to kind of dig deeper with where they're at, because they don't want to pivot, and it's understandable because all these feelings are sort of new to them. With adults, these feelings have been habits for a long time. And so it's a technique we need to do to get out of that habit. Sometimes for kids, I think it's dependent on the situation, but sometimes it's like, okay, we sit down, we take a deep breath, everybody relax. We figure out why we think something's unfair. Okay, sometimes things are unfair. That's okay. We take the trigger out of it. Okay. Instead of, it's so unfair, or he did this, or he got that, and I didn't get that. It's like, okay, let's breathe. Guess what? He got that. I didn't get that. He's older. He might get a privilege that I don't get. Or whatever. Whatever the situation is, it's like, let's take the emotional trigger out of it and let it just be what it is. And teach kids from that place. It's like, we don't have to be afraid of our emotions, but like learning to control them when you're a kid, in terms of you can identify an emotion and separate from it. Having it be you and having you be all in it. I think teaching kids that tool, like at a young age, is super helpful.
Yeah, it sounds super helpful. So definitely note to self, something to practice. Everything practice too, right?
Everything's a practice. And it takes them time to practice. It's like the first time you do it, they might be like, "What, Mom?" But then you continue. You say that we're going to do this practice because I want to teach you how to manage your emotions and to be highly self-managed. That's what I tell my daughter. She's 4 and she looks at me, and I'm just like, I want you to be a highly self-managed individual.
Oh yeah, you
Yes, we can have emotions. And
words. You say, I want you to be like highly self-managed.
I'm inspiring you. I want to inspire you to be a highly self-managed individual, you know?
I love it. I love
Yeah.
that. So my second thought was, and I really want to dig into this pivoting tool.
Yeah.
Is an example that I love for you to kind of coach us through. So a common example where people can get into this negative trigger is tax time. Seems like people around me, like nobody likes taxes, right? Like my husband's an accountant, and you know he deals with those clients coming to him with those thought process, right? So let's say someone's really wanting to get their taxes done, and they're just in that, oh my God, this is so hard. I hate this. I don't know where anything is. Like looking at a tree to say, oh, I love this tree. Like they still have to do the taxes.
Right. So what it comes down to is like unpacking it. And first of all, knowing nothing is worth your peace. You got to do taxes. Let's just do it and not have an emotional trigger attached to it, because you got to do it. So, there's no way around it. Let's make it fun. I have an opportunity to make this fun. I have an opportunity to be in control of how I feel about doing taxes. Mm-hmm. I have an opportunity to set up my life so that taxes aren't challenging. I have an opportunity to make sure that I'm saving every month for my taxes if I own a business or if I know I'm going to owe for my taxes, so that when it comes tax time, it's no big deal because I've already prepared for it all year round, and it's just a matter of sending the stuff to my accountant. So it's like you have to unpack it and go, why does taxes bother me? Mm. Is it because it's just this bureaucratic thing I have to do? Well, then let's just be thankful that we have a tax system that gives us fire, that gives us police, that gives us nice roads, that gives us schools and parks. And like, I get to contribute to schools and parks and fire and police and, good roads. And yay, that's what like being a part of a community is. So, okay, I'm grateful to do that. Right. So just unpacking it and finding why does this really bother me? And how can I up level that? How can I think greater than like, oh, this is just like this pain in the butt for me?
Got it. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much. It's also like going back to being grateful, right? When you're saying, how I'm contributing to.
Remember, you're contributing.
Yeah. And play a game, like make it fun, right? Like which part of it is actually bothering me?
Which part is bothering you? Yeah. Is it because you owe something and you haven't prepared? Okay, I owe something and I haven't prepared. All right, I'm going to get through it, because where there's a will, there's a way. But this coming year, I'm going to make sure I prepare. Mm-hmm. Make that shift, and I'm going to lead myself through that. Because I know that if I don't make that shift and lead myself through that and prepare every month for next tax season, then by the time I get next tax season, I'm going to feel like this again. And you know what, when you do that, when you master something like that, when you take the trigger out, it doesn't bother me anymore. You know how much confidence you get in yourself? It's like knowing that like, oh my God, I can do taxes and not be bothered,
Yeah, I'm really working on my triggers when my kids are, doing whatever they're doing that triggers me. I'm like really acknowledging like, what is it that's triggering me? So
yeah, and like knowing kids, it's like you'll have to tell a kid something 20 times before they integrate it and actually do it. And as long as you know that, then you're not triggered by like, how many times do I have to tell this kid to put away his lunchbox or whatever? It's like you just like, okay, this is what it is. Like, you have to tell kids things a lot before they learn stuff. Instead of just having an expectation that like, if you say something, it's just going to happen. It's like, okay, well, you know what? That doesn't always happen.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So not being attached to like the idealistic outcome. Right.
Yeah. That's great. Okay. One last question.
Sure.
So a lot of our listeners may be in this transition mode, or they're working on a career that they would love to thrive. Right. Yeah. So a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of businesses, they're really going after their passion, and they've been at it for, maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And they're not gaining the momentum they want to be, but they're sticking to the path, and they may be in this like disappointment.
Yeah.
So, what's your advice around impacting our thoughts and changing our thoughts or influencing our thoughts to stay on the path of their bliss, and or what's the decision making criteria to change?
Right, to change what you're doing. So, it's about how we lead ourselves through this, for sure. You want to keep a discipline. That's what I'm like teaching people in a mastermind that I'm doing right now, is like having that discipline where you are connecting to stillness every day. Because as an entrepreneur, we're trying to work, we got ideas, it's like about like execute. And it's a hard place that's not really where we create from. It's like we really create from our stillness. And it is hard sometimes to feel like the priority, especially when there's a lot to do every day, to like prioritize the stillness. You're like, no, I gotta, there's a lot of other things to do in that time, I understand. But allowing yourself to really prioritize the stillness and move on the real inspiration and write it down. And then once you write it down and you're clear that that's the inspiration to move on, then follow through whether you feel disappointed or not. Because when you're following through and you're doing it, whether you feel disappointed or not, that's when you get a result. If you stop yourself because you feel disappointed and you think like, I'm just not inspired to do that, then we don't go anywhere that way, because we'll always be able to talk ourselves out of it. I think we do need real inspiration. And I think we find that when we get stillness, but then I also think we do need to execute on what we've determined that we're going to execute on, and not allow ourselves to say we're going to execute on everything, because we know that's just going to exhaust us. Really what's happening is that if we celebrate more, we're going to have more to celebrate. So as long as you just go, you know what, if you feel really disappointed and really, I've been there, like I know how it is to just in business, in the arts, to have like a lot of disappointments. You just go, okay, I'm just going to have fun. Like, I'm just going to let all that go for a moment and raise my energy, because where your energy is at is where your business is going to happen, and is where your high vibe life is going to happen, is when you like raise your energy. So if you need to put something on pause and celebrate life, celebrate family, celebrate fruit trees, just like music and like love life.
Love it. I mean, this is kind of like the pivot thing, right? It's like, let's like not get all,
don't get bogged. Don't get bogged
with this disappointment and how everything's not working.
Yeah.
Let's look at
that's going to happen in any entrepreneurial experience. That's going to happen, because that's how you grow, and that's how you become. That's how you build character as an entrepreneur, as an artist, or as anyone trying to do anything. That's what makes you better, is having the disappointments and having to overcome them. So it's going to happen. It's like kids not listening. It's going to happen.
Yeah. So it's almost like, what if we could celebrate the disappointment? It's like, yes,
totally. Right.
I'm disappointed again. That's part of the journey. I'm on the right track.
Because you did something. You wouldn't be disappointed if you didn't put something out there, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like maybe I set up a seminar that's like I put all this work to it and no one shows up.
Yeah.
You actually took action.
Yeah. And know that like Yogananda, the first time he came to the West to teach yoga, no one showed up. And yet everyone now knows like Yogananda. You know what I mean? It's like, that story that so many of the people that you admire as anything, entrepreneurs, scientists, leaders, they've all been there. It didn't just work for them right away,
Yeah. That's a great context.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Yeah,
it builds us. It's what is needed to build us. Because if we don't have that character and we build something big and then something crazy happens, we're not going to have the foundation to know how to deal with it.
Thank you so much. That was like an amazing conversation. I just want to continue.
My pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to connect with all of your listeners. So,
and tell us about this free gift that you have. You have like a passion free high vibe food.
Yes. So go to my website, please, BlytheNaturalLiving.com, and you can, I'm sure Bonnie will put the link down there for you. click on Get Started, and you can get my little mini series on high vibe foods. So I teach you quick and easy 5-minute recipes for super high vibration foods that you eat, and it raises your vibration because you're putting high vibration into your body. We are what we eat. We are what we think. We don't have to be what we eat if what we think is really high. Honestly, then it doesn't matter so much, because your thoughts really, your energy and your thoughts are king. But food is an amazing tool for us to use while we're all on our way of, becoming masters of our mind. Food definitely.
Quick and easy and high vibe.
Yeah. Eat the high vibe food for a more high vibe life. Honestly, it's.
And start stirring your water. Starting today.
Yep. Stir your water to structure your water. Yeah. And you guys can look up structuring water. I mean, there's a lot of interesting information if you're interested in learning more about structured water.
I'm going to get my 8-year-old to do some research around that.
Yeah, and get them to sing into the water and just love the water. You'll see what happens.
Amazing. Thank you so much once again for being with us. We appreciate you and all the work that you're doing, and all the best on your baby coming.
Thank you, my little boy coming. Yay. Thank you. It's been so fun having this conversation. I appreciate it too.
Really
and bless you all. I hope to connect with all of you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.